Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for your attendance. Mayor, Commissioner Kolpak, appreciate you being here. Mike Redlinger, staff. Before I get started, I just want to introduce a few of our commanders and one of our criminal intelligence analysts. Jamie Schwan is here. Captain Matt Christensen, who's the commander of our Neighborhood Services Division. Captain Troy Hanig, newly minted Captain Troy Hanig for the Professional Standards Division. And Captain Bill Alfeld from the Criminal Investigations Division. So at the end, once we go through this, if there's more detailed questions you might have, we might have some of them step up and take some of that follow-up as well. You'll notice on our annual report cover this year, it is graced with the three members of our department recognized in the Of the Year awards. Detective Tom Bernier, Civilian of the Year Gene Severson, who's also in the audience today as just a special plus to the presentation, and Supervisor of the Year Sergeant Paul Simonson. I think this is a really great report. The work of our department team in 2024 continues to be outstanding. Very proud of all of their efforts and everything that they've done across the board to help keep our community safe. Our folks are out there working very diligently every day, 24/7, and doing the very best that they can with all of the resources that they have and the efficiencies that we put in place. So very proud of their efforts, as well as that of our community, who has stepped up multiple times in investigations and other matters to make sure that they're reporting things to us, that they are collaborating with our police department members to help solve crimes and keep the community safe and prevent things from happening. It's great things. So very happy about all of that. We're going to go over some of the highlights. Again, happy to take questions at the end about any specific things that you might see. But overall, we have a very good report here in terms of crime in our city. We're going to hit on these 5 bullet points as we walk through the highlights of the report, which is pretty comprehensive. And I also want to thank our city communications team for all the work that they did on putting this together and making it look really nice. That's a pretty big effort on everyone's part to get that organized every year. We'll start out with the really great news. Overall, we've seen a 6.8% decrease in crime in the city of Fargo compared to 2023. So you'll see all 3 categories: persons crime, property crime, and crimes against society, which is a lot of your drug-related types of crimes, weapon violations, etc., are all down. That's great. As we kind of delve into the specifics, you can see some of the particular crimes that are down. Burglary, I think that's important. It's not a huge drop, but certainly that's good. Motor vehicle theft had a pretty large decline, which was somewhat surprising with the motor vehicle theft issues that are going on nationally. It's really a big international organized crime and cartel-related piece in terms of our motor vehicle thefts, and we're seeing that even here in Fargo, where we've had some vehicles that were stolen from the airport and ending up across the border. So lots happening in that area. Shoplifting, as you look through the details, and at the end of this, we're also going to give you an update on our first quarter report. So for a comparable of the first quarter 25 to 24 that our crime analyst Jamie has put together. And then the details for that are also on our website. But what you'll see in terms of shoplifting, it's the most numerous crime in our city, and hits in significant areas where there's retailers, etc. But shoplifting and theft are probably the crimes that we have the most volume in terms of a city. Murder and non-negligent homicide. We did a 6 last year, which is an increase from the year before. 2023 was actually a kind of an anomaly year in some of these categories. Our average over the 6-year period is 5 homicides a year. And on the good side of that, all of those cases are cleared by arrest, and all those persons have been held accountable for those acts. We had a little larger increase in rape counts in 2024. But again, looking over the last couple of years, in 2022 we had 150, and in 2021 we had 130. So not out of trend alignment, but we are looking into the rape category. And Captain Alfeld would have probably some more specifics on that. We've identified an ongoing issue with some of our statutory language that puts our prosecutors in a position where they can't charge some cases based on some of the language in the statute that is not in my opinion, in alignment with best practice in terms of sexual assault statutory language. Robberies are fairly flat. Both of our ag assaults and simple assaults are down across the board in 24. You see the subset below that has, that is a subset of those two tables at the top that are the specific domestic assaults that are within those larger counts above. So you can see there's a pretty significant portion of those assaults are domestic violence related incidents. And we did have one domestic violence related homicide in 2024 as well. Our shots fired, again, this is instances where someone is not shot, but someone has fired a gun, a handgun, or a pistol, some type of a firearm, either at a house, at a car, at a person. Those are shots fired or in the air. We investigate those separately. That's part of our gun crime intelligence approach to using the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network and matching up ballistics evidence to other crimes. We've had a lot of success with that in terms of when we do have this type of crime, even with our shootings and homicides, matching up these guns and ballistic evidence to crimes that have occurred either in our jurisdiction or other jurisdictions. That continues to be very beneficial. You'll see starting last year, we had a pretty good downward trend in the shots fired complaints. I'm going to move over now into implementation of technology. This has been a big push by our department for many years and a big piece of our strategic plan, not only to create efficiencies, but to create greater potential to solve crime, prevent crime. It's just been tremendous in terms of the benefits that it's brought in these early stages. Captain Allfeld's team has really worked on stepping up the real-time crime center in a integrated fashion. We have to work with the staffing and equipment and facilities that we have, but we've been able to accomplish a lot with that. We are the first fully functioning real-time crime center in the state of North Dakota, and we do utilize this in a number of ways. Monitoring large-scale events like street fair, the holiday parade, those types of things. We have intervened in many instances that people in the real-time crime center identified as potential problems or wanted persons, etc. And we're able to direct communicate with our officers on the ground and get them in those areas where they weren't able to see what was going on. So we've been able to prevent a lot of incidents at some of our larger events starting back last year, and we'll continue to do so. But the other really big takeaway you may have seen or heard from the downtown meeting we had with our business partners last week was the ability to utilize officers in the real-time crime center so that we can actually effect arrests for the things that are happening. So one of the most frustrating things for most of the people who are crime victims, business owners, etc., and the police, is that our state law does not allow us to arrest for most misdemeanors, with some exceptions, unless they happen in our presence. That's a lot of different crime pieces that we have to witness. And so when someone calls and said, I saw someone using drugs, or they were smoking a meth pipe, or things of that nature, we can go over there and talk to them, but we can't effect an arrest. What we've been doing here in the past month in the Real-Time Crime Center, and I'm not sure the numbers, Captain probably has them, but we've made several arrests because we have an officer up there who's on limited duty, they're injured, watching the activity, zoning in on it, seeing the violation that's in their presence, and direct communicating to our boots on the ground so that they can swoop in, find the people, and make an arrest. And we had a real nice social media push by our comms team about a week ago, just outlining one of those incidents. One of the things to stress for the community is that these cameras, just like all cameras that we operate, are in public areas. There is no expectation of privacy, and in the public, there is no freedom to commit crime. You're not allowed to commit a crime. So if you're in the public venue, you can be recorded by anyone, including the police department. And so we're using that technology and those legal parameters to make sure that we can affect as much crime and prevent as much as possible. So that's been a big success, and we're going to continue to further that effort. In terms of our academy and staffing, Professional Standards Division and our Training and Development Unit have done an outstanding job. Really a huge effort over the past 3+ years. We've been running 2 academies a year to get our staffing up to snuff. We hosted 2 academies again in 2024, graduating 21 recruits. We are currently sitting at one vacancy. That's as a result of Captain Helmick retiring and going over to take the position in Moorhead. But other than that, we're at full staffing as this academy gets set to graduate the first week of June. Our strategic plan, as you know, is to increase our staffing, which is one of our really big needs. Our staffing ratios per thousand are currently 1.4, which was very much behind the state and national average of 2.0 officers per thousand. And so, appreciate the work that our officers are doing, but recognize that they are working and carrying a heavy workload, which is not a long-term sustainable prospect. So the strategic plan considers that, and we're working with our city officials to continue to add additional new sworn FTEs to our department at all levels, because we just don't need cops, we need supervisors, we need management, we need all the pieces so that the organization runs efficiently and provides the best service to the community. So that's part of that plan, and we're we're in our budget discussions now, and pretty optimistic about the direction that that's going. Our traffic safety team, this is a group that we were able to field as a result of a federal grant. They took to the streets in September of last year, have had a tremendous impact on dangerous driving, traffic enforcement, and education in our community. Just having them out there as a completely proactive team. They don't take calls for service unless there's some type of an emergency. They've been all over the city and just writing a tremendous amount of citations, making traffic stops, trying to deal with some of these fleeing vehicles, but it's been a huge benefit not only to safety, but traffic safety, and to our officers in the field who are handling all these other calls and trying to make traffic stops when they can incrementally. But I think the stress of having to do all of that is a little bit alleviated having this team out on the streets. The other thing that we've been working on now for 2 legislative sessions, House Bill 1229, we're really happy to report actually was passed on the House floor yesterday morning and is en route to Governor Armstrong for his signature. This House bill creates a owner liability for cars that flee from the police. These are traffic stop situations. From some of our prior reporting and our data that we have a huge amount, and there's been a huge increase over the past 5 years of vehicles that simply do not stop when our officers try to stop them for a traffic violation, and they flee. Vast majority of these cars, we got license plates, they're registered to someone, they're not stolen, but we really have no mechanism to hold the owner accountable to further that fleeing investigation, because in order for us to refer a case to the state's attorney's office for fleeing, we need to know who the driver is. And so now this new bill with the governor's signature will create a new tool for the traffic safety team and the rest of our officers to follow up on those fleeing vehicles, contact the owner, whether if they would like to tell us who the driver was, then we can investigate from there and possibly refer charges. If they don't want to tell us who it was, then they'll receive a $500 non-criminal citation. The second offense is $1,000, and so just kind of goes from there. So that's a tool that we don't have now that hopefully will help garner some cooperation, but also help deter and prevent some of these incidents from happening because they are extremely dangerous. Prime example, just a couple of weeks ago, and some of the people on motorcycles are extremely dangerous in what they're doing and reckless in how they're driving. This particular individual, Mr. Quinter, who you're probably all aware of, was clocked at 143 miles an hour blowing through red lights on 52nd Avenue South. That is a complete disregard for everyone's life, including his own. But unfortunately, that is not something we have not seen before. Our folks see that quite often, and that conduct needs to stop. This particular person's conduct stopped when he crashed into an occupied vehicle, in which, fortunately, there weren't major injuries to those people, but someone could have been killed. He was obviously injured, and he's awaiting charges at the state's attorney's office. There's been additional evidence related to him and other incidents that he's been involved in as well. And so we'll be working with the state's attorney's office in hopes for a very strong prosecution and start sending a message to some of these people who are doing this, because we are not going to put up with it, but obviously we can't chase a motorcycle at 140 miles per hour. This new bill will also help us with that. So it's a big piece and step in the right direction across traffic safety. Officer wellness, our officer wellness program has just grown exponentially. And last year, again, took major steps forward. This has been a huge benefit for our department. I think, as you're all aware, the recognition, mental health awareness and mental health wellness for police officers has been a huge topic for the past several years. The rates of officer suicide outweigh the rates of officers killed in the line of duty, and so we know these things through all of our research and networking with other organizations and associations. And we've continued to grow on that research and build out this wellness program with the bringing on board of a wellness coordinator. That was also through a grant. We are requesting that position to be created as a full-time FTE in 2026 as the grant runs out. Mary Kruger is her name. She's done a tremendous job of creating relationships in the department and bringing her wealth of knowledge in, alleviating some of the outside resources that we may have to use because of her expertise in terms of the ability for officers. She's right here in the police department to check in with her at any point, utilizing her for some of these mental health check-ins, referral services, etc. And so what we've done is we had a pretty good peer support team over the years. We've grown that out and combined it with our wellness team, if you will, so that we can take a very comprehensive approach to officer, department, our staff across the board, not just cops. Wellness program from mental health, physical, nutrition, sleep. Our department participated in a pilot study with the National Police Institute last year, sleep study, to monitor how many hours our officers were getting sleep, what their shift schedules maybe did to their sleep patterning. And again, we're looking forward to getting that research so that we can look at are there ways we can help make that better. Sleep's pretty important for everybody. Our chaplain program, but across the board, this has taken leaps and bounds to the point where we are creating our own wellness unit in the department. And the wellness coordinator will be a part of that, but we're putting a supervisor in charge and then the combined peer support wellness team kind of as those ancillary workers to all of those efforts. So we're continuing forward with a lot of things. And the work that our department has done has been recognized nationally at a couple of conferences on officer safety and wellness. So we're creating a reputation there, and we've been doing some great networking across the United States on that and in Canada. Part of this program also, and really with the very generous support of our community, we were able to send a number of officers to honor Officer Jake Willeen last May at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. We want to make sure that his memory is continued to be honored and that that's never forgotten. And this trip and the opportunity to do that was another huge mental wellness benefit for all those folks that went there. It's a somber, bittersweet type of an event, but it's also an opportunity to decompress and recognize that there's a lot of support out there for what our officers do, and I think that gave them a very different, positive perspective on their work. Going forward, just kind of a brief look at our organizational chart, but this is a complex organization. We have people at multiple layers, in multiple units and multiple teams that are doing all of the things that you see from the crime prevention to the boots on the ground to the supervision, the research, and all the things that we're talking about. And we need to make sure that we have enough people in all these areas and that they are organized properly for oversight and command and response. And so you'll see this org chart adjust as we go forward. But it's a very good team. It's a very cohesive team, and I'm very proud to be the chief of the department and really look forward to our future success. Before I hand it off, just a quick overview. Well, maybe are there questions on the annual report before we go into the first quarter stats? Yes, Tasha.
Sorry, thanks, Ty. You mentioned the homicide clearance. As far as I know, no one was ever charged for murder in the Zion Brooks case. I'm just wondering how that's been cleared.
It's cleared with his arrest, and I don't know if are you able to kind of talk about that? Sure, we'll turn that over to Camille.
Okay.
And so, just so you understand, a crime clearance is when we arrest the perpetrator. There are times when we arrest the perpetrator, and for other reasons, prosecutors aren't able to charge, or they're going to charge in the future. So that still counts as a crime clearance.
Okay, so you're able to say that Amari Logan was the perpetrator of Zion Brooks's murder?
Yes.
Okay,
This is not. Yes, he was arrested based on probable cause for that incident. Was given to the Cass County State's Attorney's Office, and they're the ones who decide whether or not those charges move forward after the arrest.
I see. Okay, and then one more maybe quick update probably for you. In the Rasan Wilson murder, Stephen Burrell is still in Louisiana. He's, I think, one of the people named in that case. Is there a timeline for his return? You guys had a press conference saying he had been arrested in Iowa, and then suddenly he was in Louisiana on a stolen car
Right.
charge.
Yeah, so Zion Brooks, or I'm sorry, Stephen Burrell currently has a warrant for his arrest on that homicide. When Louisiana decides to, when he's done serving his time down there, then he'll be looked at for that homicide. But they're currently two in custody for that homicide, and
Okay, so
that
he'll,
investigation is still ongoing. So
I see, so likely to serve his entire sentence on the other charge in Louisiana?
that's up to Cass County State's Attorney's Office and the jurisdiction in Louisiana.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So that would involve extradition, but he's not going anywhere, and he's got the warrant until he gets out of prison. Okay. Any other annual report questions? Yes.
Chief, I know in the press release you said that the reduction in crime is a direct result of the Fargo Police Department's hard work and their efforts. I guess to my understanding, police respond and it's kind of a reaction. I'm just wondering if you're able to touch on what does the police department do in terms of preventing the crimes from even happening?
And it's not the direct result just of the police department, it's a direct result of the police department and the community partnerships in keeping our city safe. And our prevention has everything to do with every arrest that we make. So if we arrest someone for burglary, because if they don't get arrested, they will likely continue to burglarize. Sexual crimes, all of those crime categories. So people who are involved in criminal conduct most often will continue to do that until they're held accountable. And that's where we make every effort to quickly identify and arrest folks, like we did this last weekend in the shots fired incident and ag assault incident that happened outside of the OB. Where officers are actually right on the scene. We had one cop was able to run in right away because they thought at first some shooting was happening inside of the establishment, so they were right on the scene. And then we were able to figure out afterwards what had occurred, and we located the victim about an hour later when he showed up at the hospital with a head injury, and put all of that together, collect evidence, etc. So that was a dispute between known individuals that would likely continue if we didn't quickly intervene, make an arrest, and send it over for prosecution. So every piece of work that we do and that our community helps us with prevents crime. The Real-Time Crime Center, absolute perfect example of other crime prevention and even preventing incidents or altercations from happening at some of these larger venues. And as I described earlier, we've got people walking around areas of our city doing criminal behavior, but if there's not a cop there to see it, no one can do anything other than we talk to them, we refer them for charges, and that takes a significant amount of time. So if you get stopped with your meth pipe or whatever it is, and I didn't see the activity, and I refer you for charges for whatever the crime is, that's going to end the contact unless you have a warrant. You're free to now go on and commit other crime. So we are very much about getting those folks off the street to prevent their ability to commit more crime and sending it over to the prosecutor, and the strong hopes that they hold folks accountable as well.
Sorry, you mentioned the major drop in domestic violence cases. Just wondering if you had sort of any sense about why that, anything to attribute that to?
Let me look here. I don't know that there's a drop in domestic violence cases.
I think it was like a 43% drop.
In the ag assaults, yeah.
Yeah,
Compared to the year before, right?
yeah.
No, I think, what I would actually draw my attention to is why they aren't, all of them aren't cleared by arrest. We know who the perpetrator is. And so that goes into the issue of nuances of domestic violence investigations. And so sometimes victims don't want to prosecute for a variety of reasons, from income to relationships to it's just difficult to do. One of the things that we did bring in the last year also was our victim services specialist, and she has been really impactful in connecting with crime victims, particularly in domestic violence and some of these other violent crimes. And so, let's see if this is a trend or not, right? But her ability to refer people to those resources and to maybe help them through that prosecution piece, I think is going to pay dividends down the road, but this has been her first year. So that's something we didn't have at all. But that's always a tricky one. Very similar to the sexual assault piece, just from the prosecution perspective, where you would think, boy, all of these would be cleared and done, so.
Got it.
Chief, if this is a question that you'd prefer to ask or answer rather after the first 3 months, feel free to let me know. But I was just curious, one thing the city's talked a lot about over the past year is crime in downtown Fargo. Of course, the Fargo Police Department has released data that shows that it doesn't appear that it's a uniquely troubling spot, but that perception still persists. Moving forward, what's kind of the strategy to tackle that?
Well, you're right on the crime stats, and we'll show you the first quarter report as well, but that B2 crime is down, continues to be down. But that doesn't necessarily change the perspective of some or the perception of some related to the other issues that really plague downtown: homelessness, addiction, mental health. And some of that's all over the city, but it's congregated downtown for a variety of reasons. There's resources there, et cetera. And so that is a unique issue that we continue to work with our other partners in the city, public health, harm reduction, our city administration and commissioners, and trying to come up with a strategic plan, if you will, to address all of these things. They're different but also inextricably connected issues. A couple of things that happened in our favor. Senate Bill 2171 was signed by the governor. That bill, which we all were proponents of and helped through our city person that we had up at the legislature. Yeah, right. In terms of getting that bill through, creates a 72-hour hold for those that we place on mental health emergency detentions. So the current law was 24 hours, and most professionals would tell you that 24 hours is not enough time to fully evaluate someone's mental health issues, capacity, needs. And so it was very much a revolving door, and then those folks would be right back out onto the street into some type of situation and or in some type of conflict or stop with our officers. And so that's not good for them, not good for our cops either from a mental health perspective when we're dealing with the same people, and today they might be calm and tomorrow they might be not calm. And also the community perspective, which seems like no one's doing anything. And in a sense, they're not far off because we don't have and we don't have facilities for that need like we do need. Now, the 72-hour hold will create some opportunities because that opens up an effective evaluation time. And then we hope likelihood that some of these folks with these really severe chronic issues are able to be placed into a facility for a period of time versus just walking right back out the door. And that puts even some other private service organizations into play with the change in that law. So that's good. As you know, we've been working on, the city's been working on a plan for the engagement center and potential deflection center and all those things, which we also think would be helpful down the road if all of the pieces align properly to help address those issues and help minimize that fear and that perception from the downtown area.
Tosh, did you have another question?
You mentioned vehicle thefts being part of an organized crime and cartel-related issue. I'm not sure that it's anything I've ever heard before, and some vehicles being stolen from the airport and being brought across the border. Curious to know a little bit more about that.
Sure, there's a pretty big national, if you did some Googling around, national motor vehicle theft issue that a lot of organized crime is behind, in some cases cartels as well, in which vehicles are stolen and boy, they're never recovered. When they end up overseas, they're stolen, they're put on shipping containers, and they're out of the U.S. or they're crossing the border in Mexico and sold from there or used by other folks down in Mexico. So it's the motor vehicle theft piece is probably unknown to a lot of people. They think it's just a local issue. But there's local issues, but there's also this broader national issue, and you could Google and find a whole bunch of information on that. But there's a lot of large-scale things like that happening. Yeah, we've got some stolen autos from our Fargo airport that crossed the Mexico border, which almost makes no sense because it'd be closer in Canada. But yeah,
Are they personal cars or are they rental cars?
they were rental cars.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, and that case actually was taken up by the FBI, so I don't have any updates on that. Any other annual reports? Okay, let's go to just our first quarter update. This is something that we'll continue to do quarterly updates on crime, and you'll see it online by beat, by crime category, so you can kind of get a better feel. These statistics compare January through March of 25 to January through March of 24. Citywide, again, total calls for service are up compared to the same time last year. Almost all of the crime categories are down. Beat 1, which is the north of downtown, way up past the airport area. I can see here we've got a slight increase in ag assaults, big increase in motor vehicle theft, and that's going to be related to those airport motor vehicle thefts. And then a couple other categories that are down or flat. Again, you'll see the increase in calls for service. We did have, I guess, also a late winter, so that could be attributable to increased calls. B2, which is the downtown area. Okay, with the exception of motor vehicle theft, every crime category is down, again, compared to last year, first 3 months. So this is good news. Doesn't mean we don't have other work in downtown, because we do, but it's not necessarily crime related, although we're all part of the solution. B3 across the board, every category is down. That's that mid-eastern section of the city. Beat 4 is southeast. We've got some assault motor vehicle thefts. Again, you'll see almost across the board motor vehicle theft is up. And that's going to be a mix of local and other more organized operations. And then Beat 5 on the southwest, we got an increase in rape there. Not sure about the particulars of those. The other categories are down. Ag assault fairly significantly. Theft from vehicle pretty significantly as well. So that's the kind of first quarter overview. I don't have any big highlights to talk about there unless you got some questions, but it gives you a bird's eye view. You can always look online if you have more detailed questions. We can always follow up with you. Yes, sir.
Vehicle theft, there used to be a lot of times people that left keys in their car and their car running. Is that still contributing to that? Or
Yes.
I'm sorry. On vehicle assaults, or thefts, is it car running or keys in the car, and or you're starting to talk about organized crime kind of getting into this, but are the people who own the car still part of the problem?
Oh, yeah, no, and thanks for that question. That's actually the number one source of getting your car stolen. Leaving your keys in it while it's running. And whether it's winter or summer, because we all want to be hot or we all want to be cool, I would say that hands down, that's the number one reason your car gets stolen. Yeah, the organized crime piece that I talk about was more for background, but it's not a significant part of our numbers, but it's out there. But if you just don't leave your keys in your car and you invest in a starter, which is about $200 maybe, give or take, you could start your car and keep it warm or cold and no one could steal it. So we really encourage people to do that versus running it with your keys and then walking out to find that it's gone. All right, any other questions or follow-ups? Okay, all right, thanks everyone, appreciate your attendance.